reading or I'm researching and I have an idea to do something, then I also, write it down and notch it. But it's not like a 10-hour thing. It comes to me really quick.
Guys, we are live on YouTube.
Okay. Start with your testimonial. Let's go.
Start. So hello Miami, hello Prague, and welcome to another Founder Fortitude episode. Shaun, would you remind us why Founder Fortitudes?
Yeah, so if you're joining us for the first time, because I know we have some new people right here live, which I appreciate you all being here, is that Founder Fortitude is a non-pop culture version of entrepreneurship. It's information to help you as a founder grow, develop, and become successful. We pull no punches. We're blunt, and we're here to answer your questions, no matter how grand or small they may be. The chat is open. I encourage everyone to share your LinkedIns and network with one another. Post your questions in the chat. Whatever we can do to help you, we'll do it. And we're just here trying to, make the road a little easier and a little more bearable for founders across the world, no matter what sector or industry they're in. Because as I tell everyone that always says it must be so cool to be an entrepreneur and a founder, I say, no, it kind of sucks. So this is for it to make it suck a little less with some of the smartest
or
people
a little more.
Or a little more. So with some of the smartest people in the game, and that's kind of the purpose of these. And, today's talk, I think, is probably the most important. I mean, I say it all the time. It's really important, but I really think today's is the most important because it's on purpose and meaning. And purpose and meaning makes a great deal bearable, perhaps everything. And as a founder, you need something to keep you going, because it's probably, if it's not the hardest thing to do, it's probably definitely the most annoying thing to do. And it's the most lonely thing to do. And, you're surrounded by people that nobody wants to admit how much it sucks. And nobody wants to admit, that they've probably failed at being a founder, because everybody likes to say, we're awesome and we're scaling and we're getting our MVP and we're pivoting and all this great stuff. And at the end of the day, it's really, okay, we're all in the same sinking ship. The best you can do is kind of ameliorate your fellow passengers' plight. And I feel like that's kind of what we have to do as founders, and what we have to do when we have purpose in meeting, and we have to help others kind of get across the stormy seas of defeat. So that's kind of how today is going to roll. But again, put everything in the chat, questions, comments, LinkedIn's, link with one another, chat with one another, connect. And again, we'll try and help you and try and get you to the next stage of your founder journey with some of the top people in the game. So with that being said, I need a break. Who's up to talk next?
Yeah, so this chatting guy is Shaun. I'm Sandra, and we would like to introduce our very special guest, Wallace Green. Wallace, a couple of words about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Shout out from Prague in the Czech Republic. American, living here 20 plus years. Every day feels like a day in Disneyland, except it's not fake, it's real. And even though I'm over here, I still love all my brothers and sisters back in the States. And I'm super happy to join this amazing crew. Sandra is my sister from Baltic Sandbox. I roll a lot in the Baltics area. Those are the three beautiful little countries in the northeastern part of Europe, where the startup scene is just amazing. It's the new unicorn forest in Europe. And I'm just really thrilled to be here. Thank you, Shaun and Sandra, for bringing me on today.
Thanks for coming. Well, yeah, it's pretty thrilling. I'd say like how many we have now, like 13 unicorns for less than 7 million people. Kind of something. Okay, and today we're here to talk about the purpose. And probably the first question is, let's define purpose. What are we even talking about?
I mean, it's essentially, why do you do what you do? Why did you start a startup? Why did you create a company? Because so many people have been skewed. Okay, they've been corrupted by social media, where if you're a startup founder, you have a yacht and a Ferrari and a Lamborghini and a helicopter that takes you from your small house to the big house. Everybody's a winner. You can be your own boss, work from anywhere, be a nomad, everything. And the fact of the matter is, it's, again, one of the hardest things to do is be a founder. And you need to have something inside of you that keeps you going when the world is against you. And the world's going to be against you. There has never been a single idea where you have pitched it to someone and it's been universally accepted. Maybe sliced bread. Everyone always likes to say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think there's been a lot of other greater things besides sliced bread, but anytime you have an original idea, people are going to go against it. Why are you doing it? What's the purpose? You don't have any experience. What's the point? Why you should play it safe? Maybe go to the executive training program at Bloomingdale's or to culinary school or whatever. And you need something inside you that says, no, I'm going to push back against this. And, that's where the meaning and the purpose comes from, is why are you doing this? Are you doing this because it consumes you? Because if it consumes you, you're going to do it regardless if it's a success or a failure. And that's what I think separates a lot of founders from, the ones that are real to the ones that are just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it because it's hot right now. Shared workspaces are hot and crypto is hot and everything's hot, but there's really no passion behind it. There's no purpose behind it. And I mean, if you go through history and you read about all these great quotes on meaning and purpose from all these thinkers and writers and philosophers, every action comes down to having the purpose and the meaning behind it. Aristotle said man is a goal-seeking animal. His life only has purpose when he is striving toward his goals. You have Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote in the Gulag Archipelago that, the purpose of life is not, prosperity as we have come to believe, but the maturation of the human soul. You have Pablo Picasso that said the purpose of life is to find your gift and to give it away. So everyone is all based around, this idea of purpose and meaning because it makes everything bearable. And you have to have something that makes the plight of reality, the plight of being a founder in 2021, 2022, where, everybody's raising money. Well, not everybody's raising money. Only, a few people are raising money, maybe hundreds out of the 582 million startups and entrepreneurs there are in the world. And you have to have something to keep you going when you're not raising money, because when you start to raise money, everyone's going to tell you that it's too early or it's not for us, or we're not in the sector, or we're just not interested, or it's just not the right fit. And you need to have something that keeps you going. You need to have something that you can strive for that says, okay, I don't care if I get 100 doors slammed in my face, I'm going to the next 100. And that's how winning is done. And you need to have that powerful purpose to make it happen. And that's why I think it's just so important, because most people are just aimless. And when you don't have a deep sense of purpose, as Viktor Frankl says in Man's Search for Meaning, the entire book is about meaning and purpose, one of the best books of the 20th century, people distract themselves with pleasure. And there's never been a better time than 2021, 2022 to distract yourself with pleasure. TikTok, Instagram, Xbox, PlayStation, Netflix, Hulu, name it. Everything is pleasurable except the reality of the situation, except the reality of being a startup founder and trying to make something happen. Over to you, Wallace. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting, your take on purpose, because I think about the work that I do here in the Baltics, and I work as a startup coach and also an angel investor and the way I approach purpose when I'm working with startups is how to embrace purpose in the objectives or the impact you want your company to have on society. It's what's really, really flaming hot in this region right now is our impact startups. And it seems like every mentoring conversation I have with teams these days, I ask them, what exactly are you doing to help the European Union on its journey to carbon neutrality by 2050? And I have startup founders ask me, why is that important for me? Well, one reason is it's the zeitgeist. It's the topic of the moment. We have COP26 going on in Edinburgh just last week. It's still continuing this week. When you build your company to achieve an impact in society that's greater than your business model, it's greater than the economic opportunity, what happens? People pay attention. People pay attention when we tell stories about not just making the world a better place, but about the change that you as an entrepreneur and as an innovator seek to create in the world. Those are the stories that really create inspiration and gravitas and pull in the marketplace. As business people, that's money on the table. If I can get some marketing lift by taking my business and aiming it towards an impact objective, and it grabs the attention of investors, it grabs the attention of the media, gives me free media coverage, all good for my fundraising, all good for my business development. So my angle these days on purpose in a business and startup context is solve a problem that matters, tell the story with deep empathy for your target audience, and good things will come to you. It's easier to fundraise. It's easier for your target segment to find your words that, like, your newsletter resonates with me. So I remember it. And we have difficulty remembering things because our attention spans are so short. But when we tell purposeful stories and we do purposeful things with our startups, good things come to us, and it makes that journey more bearable, a bit easier. And it also, like you were saying, Shaun, it gives us the fuel we need to get over and to get through those tough days, because startup is a grind. It's 24/7, it's 365, it's everything all the time. So that's kind of how I am using purpose these days. Now, side story from that, there's the individual purpose and the discovery of self and all that, which happens on this journey, regardless of whether you're chasing money or chasing impact. And that's another topic. But I find that the angle of purpose is amazing with businesses. I've seen a few companies in the last 2 years that sent me their pitch decks asking if I wanted to invest or if I could introduce an investor. And I look at the pitch deck and I'm like, honest to God, I don't know what they're trying to do, but I'm inspired by the story, and the leadership I'm sensing from the founder is worthy of me making introductions to other investors. And to me, this is a demonstration of how we as innovators and as people on the front lines of change, we have this amazing opportunity to leverage the zeitgeist and leverage the early stage capital and the angel investment communities and all the content around how to hustle and be a successful entrepreneur. My challenge to myself and to all of us on this call is, how can we leverage all of that abundance to make good in the world? And when you do that, people are going to pay attention. And that's the power of purpose. What do you think, Shaun? You buying it?
Yes and no. Sandra, what do you think?
Well, actually, both angles are really interesting. And the thing is, when I'm talking to these founders, especially young founders, like at the very, very beginning of their journey, there is this question that they're asking: what if my purpose is actually wrong? I mean, I'm building something. I'm probably building something that I do truly believe is going to change the world. However, I don't know if other people are into it. I don't know if other people relate themselves to my purpose. So how do I know at what moments can I actually figure out, is it the right purpose or wrong purpose? I mean, obviously, when you're doing tech for good, everyone is relating, meaning like you say, like, I'm saving the planet, and everyone, oh, yeah, we are so with you on this goal, like, continue, go on moving. We'll be looking at you while you're doing this. So how can we actually, how a founder can define, is his purpose the right one? Is his purpose or hers the wrong one? And how at the end of the day, when you're waking up like every morning into this startup show that never ends, like 24/7, at some point you start doubting yourself. At some point you can find investors, you can find customers, you can find something else. And you're like, am I wrong? Am I just chasing the wrong dream? Should I kind of switch to something else? And how would the right purpose sound in this situation? How do you know it's right?
I mean, essentially, it's something that people have to define for themselves, and no one can define it for you. And it's something that I feel like from personal experience, that it's a chemical combustion within you. You know what you're doing. It's very hard to explain it. Psychologist Abraham Maslow said it was the peak experience when everything just seems to make sense. And, as a multiple time founder, I felt that, and I've gone after stuff that was a chemical catalyst for me. I've gone after stuff that just I wanted to do, no matter what society thought of it, no matter what my peers thought, no matter what the industry thought, I had to do it. And I feel like something, if you have a company and you have a purpose where you have to do it, doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, you have to bring this about, it will make everything so much more bearable and easier, because it gives you that ability to keep going where others would quit. Where others would see a wall or a mountain, you see a stepping stone. But as far as finding out what that purpose means, it's a question for everybody, and it's open-ended. And I think one thing that we have to touch on is that as founders, it's a battle with meaninglessness to translate it into meaning. You have to, if you're an artist, you have to fight the void to get your painting. You have to fight silence to create your music. With a founder, being a founder as an entrepreneur, you have to fight the status quo. And that's much more, difficult than the void, because the void doesn't have any, doesn't have social media. The void doesn't have a response. The void doesn't have, a ready-made opinion to tell you why it's not going to work. So you have to go against, the status quo of society, but that's how you best serve society, by creating something that can improve it, by doing something that that you're inherently capable of, and that the journey doesn't scare you. The journey scares most people. It's easier for them to say, I'm a founder, I'm an entrepreneur, put it on LinkedIn, create a social media profile, create some business cards. You did it. You're a CEO. Welcome to the club, Zuckerberg 2.0. Done. But the actuality of it is that it is a long, hard road. And most people don't want to go on that road because they have to forge their own path. You have to blaze your own trail. And you have to have that purpose. You have to be going through the desert looking for that oasis. You have to be, purpose is what you're thirsting for. So you have to, as a founder, for whatever your company is, whatever sector it is, you have to have that to keep going. Because if you're a lesser individual, you're not gonna do it. It's so hard. I keep telling people how difficult it is to start a real company, have a small business, and just obey yourself, because we were so conditioned to obeying others, having someone else further, down the line, further up the ladder, further more experience, telling us what to do. And if we don't have that, we're lost. We're lost. And you have to be that person for yourself. And that's, I feel like, where the meaning comes from, is like, I'm going to do this because I have to get it out to the world. I have to fling it into the world. I have to release it onto the world, and I have to deliver on this. And I don't care what anybody thinks, because I have to do it. I am called to it, and I cannot dull the call. I cannot silence the inner yearning to deliver on what this idea is in my head. I want to make it a reality. And that's what purpose is all about.
So can we basically say that the purpose is something that is defining founders' real voice? So it's about the founder. It's something that is coming like from the inside, and basically you can fake it. You can fake what you have inside, and you can fake who you are. I mean, you definitely can do it till some moment, until you can't anymore. So if what you are doing in this case defines who you are, and
Correct.
Vice versa.
Correct. I mean, it's tough, because there's something when it comes to purpose and meaning, and when it comes to the professional world and careers, and it's a hazard I want the audience to understand, and I want everyone to realize, is that you cannot tie the purpose and the meaning to a title. You have to tie it to something that's inherently valuable. And the problem is that a lot of people tie their entire life and their work to being a senior vice president at a company that within a year or 2 years or 5 years, due to technology or downsizing or, or getting acquired, it's going to rob them of that title and position. And then what are they going to do? And there's a scene there's a play by Arthur Miller that nobody's ever seen called Encounter at Vichy. And I illustrated this in the newsletter because I thought it was such an amazing point, where Encounter at Vichy was about 4 people in Vichy, France, World War II, trying to escape the Nazi regime. They get stopped. The Nazi officer, goes up to them, asks for their papers. One of them is a prominent doctor. He proudly gives them, here's my doctorate, my PhD, my master's, my letters of accreditation, the letters from prominent individuals and my clients. Very proudly gives them all of his papers in a nice file. And the Nazi officer says, is this everything you have? And he says, yes, it's everything I have. I'm ready to cross the border. And he takes it and throws it in the garbage and says, good, now you have nothing. And I feel like a lot of people now, they tie themselves to what they're doing. And when something goes wrong, they have nothing else to show for it. It's the same thing. Well, I was a senior vice president at this company, or I was doing something at this company, and well, those jobs aren't available anymore. Not because of what you did or what you didn't do, but technology is eating the world. We're becoming more fragmented. We're entering the metaverse. I still don't know what that means, but it sounds terrifying. And things are changing faster than anyone can comprehend. And people tie themselves to what it is that they do as an occupation. And the occupation doesn't really give them the meaning. They think it does. But, as a founder, you have a purpose that goes beyond the title. Forget the titles. Titles are inherently meaningless. People are pitiful creatures if you remove the title. Take away the title and they have nothing. Most people cling to the office because it gives them a title, it gives them the illusion of meaning, it gives them something to do, and it gives them a little desk with a little name and a little bug and all that stuff. It's great. People love it. But founders generally have something that they have to approve. They have something that they have to achieve, and they're going to achieve it one way or another. And then they also have the ability to say, I look back and say, that worked, that didn't work, but I still have the energy and I still have the drive to do something else, and I can switch. I don't care about the title. And it's something that people need to realize, because people are going to enter this technological world of the cyberpunk world, high tech, low life. And no one's really going to know what's real and what isn't. No one's going to know if the title in the real world matters, if the title is in the metaverse. I mean, people have to give themselves something that's inherently meaningful, that one, gets them out of bed every day, gets them moving forward, gets them going over obstacles, and keeps things going no matter what. And I feel like that's something that cannot be summoned, and it cannot be commanded, and you cannot download it. You have to find it on your own, and you have to pursue it. And it's a constant pursuit, and it's always open-ended. That's one thing also that about meaning and purpose, is that it can constantly change. It's always open-ended. So with that being the case, you have to be flexible to be able to make this meaning malleable, to actually constantly keep going and fight it and hammer it out, and turn stone into sculpture and be a sculptor of meaning, and be a pilgrim of purpose. They're nice, catchy phrases, but that's what you have to be, especially going forward into 2022 and beyond. Take it away, Mr. Green. Thoughts?
Yeah, gosh, that's a beautiful riff. There's so much to work with there. Couple of things. First of all, Enil, I think he chimed in and said, purpose is what gets me out of bed this morning, which resonates exactly with what you were just saying, Shaun. So here's another way of looking at purpose is, if you understand who you are, and as you say, Shaun, it's not about the titles. The titles are, they're who we think we are. Who we are is what's much, much deeper than the titles that we put out on LinkedIn, or really who we present ourselves to be. But who we are is what's deep inside ourselves. And I don't know if anybody else has maybe felt this way in the last year and a half with the COVID slowdown, which I mentioned on the beginning of the call. I never use the term lockdown. It's so negative in context, whereas at least for me and my family, it's been an absolute blessing. It gave us the time and the space to reconsider a whole bunch of things about identity of ourselves and ourselves as families, that I feel like an onion, I was able to, in the last year and a half, by giving myself the space from what I was chasing for so many years, that I now have much deeper understanding of the sort of the grace or the gift or the true self of that I have inside me. I haven't quite found the truth in my written voice as Shaun has with his newsletter, which, as I also said at the beginning, the Utopian Journey newsletter is absolute fire. It'll resonate with lots of things inside of you.
Hey, thank you. I'm
going to plug you every 15 minutes, Shaun.
Thank you. I'm
definitely, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, do it. Shaun busts that thing out once a week, and it's a beautiful riff, and it's Shaun's truth. And I have to say, 90% of it, I'm right there in flow with you, bro. There's a little bit of it, I look at it and I think, maybe I'm not really resonating with parts of it, because, and maybe it's just me and where I am in my life at this moment, but I'm kind of trying to peel away all the layers of irrelevance around me and get to the things that really, really matter. And being at home every single day with my wife and my 11-year-old son. I'm an American guy living in Prague. My wife is from Japan. We have a Bengal cat. We have two birds in the house. I'm practically a full-time zookeeper. I make coffees for my family, and I have Zoom calls every single day with startup founders. And all we do is we talk growth strategy. The last year and a half, I feel like I've gotten so much closer to sort of the zone where I feel like this is where I was sort of destined to be. Sandra knows this. She hooks me up with all the startups in her network, and I'm super grateful for all that exposure, because that's what gives me life and gives me purpose. And like Emil said, or not Emil, but the other guy, sorry, Emil, I see your video in the screen. That's what gets me up in the morning, is I can't wait for these Zoom calls to talk to people about what their situation is in growing their business. And the point I want to make about that is when I have tried to, like, I don't know, let go of all the things that are not serving me well, what I found inside was something that was more powerful than I ever imagined that I had. And because of this interesting context, I have a choice. I can either look at it from a negative point of view or an opportunistic point of view. And I choose that the slowdown is a message from Mother Nature that things are going way too fast. I know I was chasing some things, and now I'm no longer chasing things. I'm just serving others. Let the Rock Theory from Alan Watts. Oh, love Alan Watts. Listen to podcasts.
We got an educated man here.
Mixed music. Oh, Shaun, don't even get me started on podcasts. I have essentially reprogrammed my brain. No Netflix, no cable TV, no cable news I haven't had cable for 10 years. Some may say, "Hey, dude, you're not connected to the world." And I say, I'm not connected to the world of illusion. I'm connected with who I am as an individual, and I'm connected not just in my mind, but I'm also connected and balanced in my heart. I understand where my love is centered, and now I really understand how I can use that in my work. And I see it. Sandra knows it too. When I'm talking with startup founders, I'm really connecting with them, and it feels so good. It's not work. It's like Alan Watts. It is play. It is play. I mean, and I enjoy it so much.
It's essentially, there's something nasty and nobody wants to realize it, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I'm kind of blunt. A lot of people don't want to admit that kind of the purpose of the pandemic was to give them purpose. And a lot of people, instead of using the time to research, to virtually network, to read, to unplug, to just open a book, to think about what am I going to do at the next stage of my life, my career. I mean, a lot of people rather just say, okay, when can I go back to, the club, the bar, happy hour, and I'm going to watch Umbrella Academy season 2 for the 7th time to find all the Easter eggs to pass the time. And I feel like, I talked to one investor during the pandemic, and he said, I'm not making any investments. I'm treating this year as a sabbatical. I'm not doing anything. And I told him, I said, because he was an older gentleman, and I said, listen, there's going to be a time in your life where you're going to wish you had 1 year, more time. You're going to wish for more time. You'll give anything for more time. And you spent that 1 year saying, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit here because the world's not doing anything. And things are still happening. I feel like if people just don't want to use their time wisely, and people didn't want to use it, they just wanted to get through it and get over it and not look at kind of like the seed of goodness that was surrounded by, in your words, an onion of despair. And if you look at the historical record, and history has a tendency to repeat, that usually every catastrophe and plague and war throughout history is followed by like a period of booming. You don't get the Renaissance without the Black Death. You don't get Silicon Valley and the space program and technology without World War II. And I knew that instantly, if you could make it through the pandemic, and you could use your time wisely, we were going to enter a boom time. And now we're entering a boom time. And, people just wasted their time. And I feel like you have to use your time wisely. If you have purpose, you know what you're doing. It's a minor inconvenience. It's a minor thing. Fine. I can't go out to the concert. Fine. I'm sure they'll play again. It's not the farewell tour of Kiss or whatever the kids are listening to. It's essentially time for me to I have free time now to do the things I've always wanted to do. Like, I want to get into being an entrepreneur. That's why we see all these people that resigned and want to become entrepreneurs, because they saw for the past year, hey, this kind of sucks. I think I could do it. I want to give it a test. Life is short. You have to live immediately. I feel like that's of all my favorite quotes out of Seneca, Letters from a Stoic and Shortness of Life and whatnot, is just life is short, live immediately. The tomorrow is not promised, the future is uncertain. Do something. I tell everyone just to do something. And, people just don't want to do anything. They just want the easiness of, I want to be famous and I want to start a company and I want to be a billionaire and I want to be a unicorn or a decacorn or a gigacorn or whatever stupid name that they're going to have to come to them for the valuation, instead of focusing on, I want to do something that's meaningful to me, that I could wake up every day, as you said, look forward to talking to people, look forward to going to work, look forward to making money, do something where I don't really have to deal with people I don't like. I feel like, entrepreneurship has also been skewed because, again, it's all about the Ferrari and it's all about, the ranking and it's all about the Crunchbase profile and all that. I feel like it's much easier and much more impactful, much more fulfilling to have a business that you enjoy doing, to make money doing what you love, to work with people that are not insane. Because one thing about being a founder is you have to deal with people that are insane, and startups attract psychopaths. I've said it before and I said it again. If you're not a psychopath when you start a startup, you might be when you finish one, just because the journey is very arduous. And it's just, it's not fun to work with everyone that's all talk, and it's not fun to work with people that are flaky, and it's not fun to work with people that don't get back to you. It's fun to work with people that you can trust, that you send an email, hey, they're going to get back to you in 24 hours or less, like a normal person, weekends and holidays excluded, of course, and just have good relationships and make a living doing what it is that you want to do. And, having a business that, who cares if it doesn't scale to 20 bazillion customers, it's fine. As long as you still are having fun doing it and you can have a good life and you can help others and you're essentially, I don't want to say happy because happiness is a myth, but being heroic is not. Having this heroic life where, okay, there's challenges, but I'm in charge. I'm doing this. I'm going to conquer these challenges is much more meaningful than just having an easygoing thing. And sure, it sucks, but whatever, because I get 2 weeks of paid vacation and I get to go to the company Halloween event where we all get free cupcakes like we're 7, and I feel like it's much better to do something that is more meaningful to you, that's more intrinsically valuable, and to drown out the noise, drown out the startup noise, drown out who's getting funded, focus on you. Focus on what you're doing. Who cares if they raised $80 million in a Series D? Okay. Focus on if you could raise $800,000 in a pre-seed, for doing something that you want to do, something that is so meaningful and important to you. Because life is short, as I said, and it's going to come back to you being like, looking back, did I really do what I wanted to do? Did I really do what I enjoyed? Did I really use my time wisely? Or was I just there being, a corporate drone posting on LinkedIn every 5 seconds of how the Power Rangers came to the board meeting? It was great. And I love this company and everything. It has to be something that's important to you. And it has to be something that you are going after. And it has to be something that no matter if the world is against you, you will still go out there and you will hammer away at the meaningless of it all to make meaning out of it. So that's what I try to leave everybody, because I've always done stuff throughout my life that were just fun to me. I never had a real job, one, because nobody would hire me. So it's a blessing in disguise. But two, it was just, I always did what I thought was interesting and fun. And I never suffered what my contemporaries suffered, as far as being like, I got to be at the office at 7 a.m. Old man Leland needs these reports and I got to stay till 8 o'clock. And it's like, I never had that. I was always like, I'm on my own schedule. I'm going to get things done. I'm going to keep hustling. I'm going to enjoy what I do. I'm going to make my own opportunities. I'm going to keep networking, and I'm going to do things that are just, inspiring not only to myself, but to others. And that's kind of how I roll. And I think because of that, I've been able to stay in the entrepreneurship game for so long, because I'm able to weather the storm, and I have a heart that is inured to suffering, because I know I like what I'm doing and I know what I'm doing. And if there's a quote that I used in the very first founder Fortitude, available on our YouTube channel, from the Odyssey, which I think that, it's a book that everybody, it's the book that everybody says they know, but nobody's actually read. Let's be honest. Nobody ever read the Odyssey. Everyone always said, yeah, I read it. They went to Cliff Notes and all that, because it's a very hard book to read. But if you read this book, I think this book is kind of, the essential founder's journey. Okay. It's essentially, and of course with it's about, someone just trying to get home. That's what it is. That's what founders are trying to be, where it's like, I just need to get home. Home is the exit. Home is the liquidity event. Home is just having a business I can call my own that I enjoy. But essentially it's a great book, because it's about resilience. It's about being shipwrecked. It's about being, suffering. It's about having setback after setback after setback. But in the form of the Odyssey, it's about facing monsters. That's the setback. It's about facing the Cyclops and the Sirens and the Scylla and all that. We're in the real world. It's about facing, conformity. It's about facing mediocrity. It's about facing rejection. It's about being alone. It's the same thing to me. So I encourage everyone to do it. But I mean, to read it and actually absorb it. But essentially, the first quote that I use was, so what if, the gods shipwreck me upon the wine dark sea? I have a heart that is inured to suffering. And in my time, I have faced many defeats upon the sea and battlefield. So let this disaster come. It will just be one more. That's kind of the whole message of being a founder. Let it come. It'll just be one more. I have one of my favorite stories, and I'll turn it back to you, just was, talking about meaning and purpose and facing, defeat and all that, is essentially, Stephen King, when he was starting out, nobody wanted him. Before he was, it's a Stephen King and It and The Shining and everything. Stephen King had a thumbtack on his wall of all his rejection letters. And when the thumbtack collapsed because there's too many rejection letters, he put a nail in the wall and put all the rejection letters in. So, you have to go through a lot of rejection and a lot of failure to get to where you want to be. And you have to have that meaning to keep you going. So I'll leave it to the audience. Questions, comments, concerns. Am I wrong or not? No problem. Go ahead and ask in the chat. I'm happy to answer. We all happy to answer and debate and whatnot. And I'll drive it back to both of you. Thoughts, comments, questions, concerns.
Sydney had a really nice point. I don't know, Sydney, you want to jump in here? You had a really nice point. You shared some words on the chat.
Yeah,
Wow, I think that's more than words. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a mini book.
Well, listening to you
loud.
guys and you guys, brought back a lot of history and, so there was a lot of key points, right? We talked about resilience. You talked about, the fortitude. You talked about the purpose and how it motivates us. We talked about the failures and the challenges that we face, whether it be on entrepreneurs. I've had the privilege or the honor or the humbleness of sitting on both sides of the table, right? Listening to pitches and obviously giving it myself. But the key thing, and I think Wallace mentioned it in the beginning, that it's in the passion, right? It's in the passion of what you deliver. Now, ultimately, you have to have a solution that's solving a problem, right? It's, it's the core basics, right? What are you solving, right? Are you solving a problem that's been solved 1,000 times? Okay, your challenge and your difficulty is that much more magnified. If you're coming about it in a completely different way, but deliver it with passion. One of the stories that stick to me, and I may be aging myself, right? It's the story between Betamax and VHS. Now, some of you, Betamax was a brilliant technology. Failed delivery, failed execution, failed vision, and failed communication. VHS had everything behind it. It had the power, it had the delivery, it had the passion and the execution, and it overcame a much more superior technology, right? And then you talk about, Jeff Bezos, right? And he talks about the fact that for years, not once or twice, for years, he was rejected. The whole concept of Amazon was rejected, right? And you can think of every single day that he woke up and said, hey, I want to quit today, right? I want to stop. I want to go back and work for corporate America, right? And you didn't, right? So there was something in there, right? There was some inner purpose that said, I want to keep going. I want to keep driving, right? The pandemic, as both Shaun and Wallace mentioned, allow us to reflect, right? So we got back. There was, first of all, you spoke to all your clients. If you had probably a 20-30% hit rate before, you had a 96% hit rate. There was not a single client that you couldn't find. And you spent the first 15-20 minutes just talking about how are you handling it, right? How are you surviving, right?
True.
How are your family issues, right? I need to pause for 5 seconds because I need to let the dog out. Or my kids are crying, or the kids walk in, right? But that brought it home, right? Some of us realized that, hey, you know what? A 60, 80-hour week isn't normal. Okay, at the end of the day, I finally hit it. I hit my multi-million-dollar deals and I'm rich, yet I'm 70, 80 years old and probably on the wrong side of enjoying life and missed out all those birthdays and all those key events, right? So it's that balance. Right. And also, some folks from the Shark Tank talk about is balancing our lives, right? Doesn't mean that you go the other side and say, well, it's all about family. Well, no, not necessarily, right? Because you have to do some sacrifices to provide for them. But ultimately, it's your inner resiliency, right? And your passion and practice. It's even the professionals practice, right? So you practice your delivery, look at yourself and you feel that passion in what you're delivering. And the simplest question is, look yourself in the mirror and say, would you buy from that person, right? Would you agree? Is that is that a vision? Is that a passion? Is that a solution that I want to follow?
Yeah. There's a lot of truth in there.
Even after all of that, they'll still say no, and that's okay.
But Sydney, I want to add to what Sydney says. Getting beyond the would you buy from that person? Who is that guy that I see in the morning every month? And what is he doing with his life? And how is he spending his time? And is he just serving himself, or is he serving others? Which brings me back to this slowdown, this gift. And I see there are a few people chiming in here with some things about karma and destiny and all good stuff. It's like this year of off, Shaun, where some people just binge watched and entertained themselves. What have they done? They've totally missed an opportunity to prepare themselves for the tough road ahead. Harder to compete for those scarce jobs, lots of automation. So a lot of jobs are being taken out of the workforce. People are aging and feeling like they're not really skilled up, ready for the next generation of work, wondering, is there even a place for me? Sandra and the team at Baltic Sandbox recently had a batch of teams specifically focusing on the hashtag SilverTech, which means how to engage the aging population through the innovations ecosphere to try and create purpose and relevance for that demographic, and let it not be forgotten in our journey forward into whatever comes. This last year has been the biggest gift should be the biggest gift and moment of reflection for all of us. Somebody a moment ago said that this is the enlightenment. I'm completely with you. Whoever said that, put your hand up, give yourself credit. This is the awakening. And we are the entrepreneurs who have the opportunity to make this change. And if we can tap into some form of flowing truth, as we're seeing from Shaun and his newsletter, plug, sign up for the newsletter.
I love this guy. We're going to put the link again. That's right.
Seriously, put the link back in. If you can write an email to somebody and it flows like Shaun's newsletter flows to us, then that probably means there's something inside of you that's flowing. And where it is probably not coming from here. It's probably coming equal parts from your heart and from your head. And if you're feeling balance in your life, in your head and in your heart in equal parts, then probably you are feeling balanced and purposeful and not unbalanced and off balance, which is where we tend to get when we're chasing after things that we either don't need or chasing after things that we believe will fulfill us, but they leave us feeling even more empty inside. I mean, Sandra, I know, is like squirming in your chair. Please don't start talking about your cat, Wallace. But the truth is, being able to spend time with my family and the animals in the home has become my purpose. And the work that I'm now doing, it's almost all online, although starting to travel. I'm going to Brussels in a couple of weeks, and I'm super stoked about that. I also know that when I'm gone, I'm going to miss this little routine I have with my family, and the balance that I have discovered, and the peace and the serenity, which I never really experienced in all of my life. And the last thing I want to say to close this is, the purpose is something that I think each of us has to discover that's inside us. It's not something we go out and we get. I think we've got to
open-ended. It's open-ended.
Yeah, but essentially, if we're talking about the purpose, right? If you're spending time with your family and your cats and you decided to do so, it's on the one hand your choice, and on the other hand your responsibility of some sort. So basically, having a purpose some kind means taking responsibility. Because when you're a startup founder, this is what you're basically doing. You are taking the responsibility of your own life. I mean, being on the sofa with Netflix and so on, that's the choice, right? And once you say, okay, the world is in a lockdown or slowdown or whatever, so I don't have that much to do. So basically, I'm just sitting on the sofa, like eating some popcorn, watching some movies. Because anyway, everything is in the slowdown. You're just transferring this responsibility from yourself to someone else, someone who put the world in the lockdown, someone who is your corporate boss or something else. There is nothing to do anyway, so I'm sitting on the sofa, and then there would be a concert, so I would probably go out. And the same with this investor who said, like, I'm not investing during the pandemic, I'm taking the sabbatical year. So basically, this person is not taking the responsibility over his own life, over his own future, the future of his investment fund or something. He's just saying, yeah, okay, the circumstances. And I think that the purpose is something that can actually beat the circumstances in all the situations, because purpose means being responsible for this purpose. Otherwise, it's not a purpose.
People don't want to be responsible. People don't want true freedom, because true freedom means responsibility. And you have to be responsible for your actions and your plans and your ideals and your goals and everything. And that's a lot of pressure. I mean, it's, the pandemic has kind of shown that the vast majority of people kind of just posted up alongside a road that was the road that everybody always followed, but the road was closed. Weather washed it out, the pandemic closed it, so society became like a refugee camp. Everybody just waiting for the road to reopen. But there's other people that are like, I'm going to find a detour. I'm going to go through that forest, that dark wood, those mountains, those rivers, like face the hazard of hazards, forge my own path. And I'm going to do it on my own. And it's a lonely thing, but that's what being a founder is. Everyone else is just like, I'll just wait for the road to reopen. Maybe there'll be a toll, sun pass, whatever. Maybe I can get an Uber pool. It's going to be great, but a lot of people realize that time is limited, and, your purpose is open-ended. The purpose and meaning is open-ended, and it's up to every one of us to kind of, essentially fight against ourselves and morph ourselves into something that is meaningful and that drives us. And it's always open-ended. It can change, but we have to define it for ourselves. You cannot summon it. There's not going to be an app that is like, purpose to you every day will give you purpose. It'll be a different purpose. Swipe to the left. But for our premium plan, it's $7.99 a month. You get 10 purpose swipes. It doesn't work like that. You have to, stumble upon it on your own. You have to adventure into the unknown. You have to read books, network with people, get outside your comfort zone, get outside any zone. Go to do something new. You can't stumble upon something sitting down. A lot of people say, oh, whatever, it'll come to me when it comes to me, but it doesn't come. Okay. Maybe they'll have a flash of realization, but that realization is usually, the result of a pressure cooker, where as Churchill said, psychic dynamite is made. He had a quote about his period of the wilderness years where he spent 10 years just being at home, painting, reading, writing, walking around his property, feeding the ducks and his goldfish, pretty boring stuff. But it was those 10 years that gave him, that developed him into the Winston Churchill that the world knows him for. And he referred to that wilderness period of being away from society as that's what creates psychic dynamite. And I feel like for founders, you need the psychic dynamite. You need to have that powder keg moment, and you have to have this research and these experiences and these actions that build up into that moment. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. The euphoria moment comes from a lot of different things that you've been exposed to and that you're thinking about. That flash of realization, the moment of clarity, the call to adventure, the desire to take action. It stems from something, and it's hard to have that come when, again, you're just sitting on the couch, binging, swiping, playing, just nothing. You're not contributing anything. You're not doing anything. You're kind of just waiting around. You're kind of already kind of decaying. There's a quote from Ben Franklin that said, most men die at 25, but they're not buried until they're 75. And I feel like that's never been more truer than it is now.
That's actually something that Wallace mentioned and something that I want to mention. So as Wallace said, we are working a lot with something that is called senior tech. So different types of the products for the seniors. And you know what's happening over there in the market? Basically, the target audience of the startups we're invested in are people who recently retired or on the verge of retirement. And this is what you dreamt about your whole life. Like, I'm going to retire. I have money. I have everything. I'm going to travel with my yacht, do some stuff and so on. apparently, it's not like that. Apparently, the main problem that people are facing when they're retiring, they literally have no purpose anymore. They're not a meaningful member of the society anymore. No one is actually interested in them. No one is interested in their expertise. And at the end of the day, they end up sitting on the couch. And this is when their mental health is deteriorating. This is when their physical health is deteriorating. And one of the main problems, and like billions of dollars invested in it, that the startups are solving, how to bring the meaning and how to bring the purpose in the lives of these people again. Because you work your corporate job for till you were 65 or whatever, and then you had some sort of meaning to the society as the part of this corporation. So you had your status, you had your title, you had something, and then you retire, and the next day you retire, you're nothing. You are not interesting to someone anymore. No one is coming back to you asking you for an advice or something like that. When you're an entrepreneur, it rarely happens. When you are a part of the corporate machine or whichever machine, when you're not taking this responsibility for your own life from, let's say, your 30s or something, you would have to reinvent your life. You would have to look for the new purpose. And the problem is that probably won't find it. At least that's why those startups over there are trying, to create an artificial purpose for the senior citizens, something to fight for, something to wake up for. And basically those people who are spending, an hour of their, like a year of their life on the couch, it's something similar, I guess. It's like when you, okay, now I don't have purpose, but next year I'm going to have purpose. Probably won't.
Yeah, listen, people need to have something, even if there's a quote by Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, all those great books. I don't know which book the quote's from, so forgive me. I've got to brush up on my Russian literature. So, but he says, it's better to go the wrong way on your own path than the right way on someone else's, and if you're just doing something for yourself that is, again, gives you that meaning and purpose, it's infinitesimally, it's infinitely more valuable because it's going to give you something that, cannot be quantified. It's going to give you the ability to wake up and say, I'm going to do this. I don't have to prove it to anybody. I feel like a lot of things now we have to prove it because we're constantly being evaluated. We constantly have to post and tweet and share and make sure that there is get the judgment of strangers and the judgment of our peers to know that we're doing the right thing. But we know it's the right thing. We know what it is, and that's why we follow it. I have a question that was directed to me, not to the chat, but I'm going to answer it. I hope it's okay. Do you think the lack of clarity comes from the fact that we've lost many of our rituals? For example, religious acts, walkabouts, etc., all our habit-forming events for self-reflection. I'd say yes. I'd say essentially, we had a lot of things that showed that the world wasn't about us. That there was a giant world out there and there's a giant society and there's billions of other people and that, there's galaxies and universes and the world revolves around, the earth revolves around the sun. And now we live in an age where, the earth revolves around me because of who I am. And look at me and look at this and look at how cool I am. So, yeah, I feel like, a lot of the humbleness of just life has been removed because everybody is a brand. Everyone's attempting to be a brand. What a dream. Where they can broadcast and telecast every single action, most of which are kind of meaningless, but that's what it is about them. So they can be a star. And I feel like people have kind of lost their place. And, we as a society have lost our place. And I feel like to get it back, it requires self-reflection. It requires, self-research, and it requires, just having a moment where, if things don't make sense, you're at least on the right path for them to make sense. Mr. Green, what do you think? I know you're itching to talk.
Well, I'm just absorbing all this because it's really beautiful, and I'm simultaneously watching the chats, and I feel like sort of Joshua and Chaitanya and I are like soul brothers or sisters. I'm not even sure. Because there's this chat going on over here about the ego and the self and the distraction of all that ego. What is it Ram Dass says? The mind stands in the way of a perfect view to God. This is my life in the last almost 2 years now, is how do I get out of this really clumsy, clunky thing which is leading me down to paths which are not really taking me places that leave me feeling warm and connected and fulfilled. And the more I can shift that perspective down into here. One technique I try and use just for anybody who's listening is next time you're having a conversation, whether it be with a family member or a work colleague, and you find yourself wanting to say the phrase, I think, and interject your opinion, I want you to try and plant a seed here and see if we can make a switch. Instead of saying, I think, put your hand on your chest and say, I feel. And then express yourself from the point of view of how you feel. Someone says something and it didn't strike you right. Say, well, I think, that's crossing swords and saying aggression begets aggression. Rather, reflect on it for a moment and say, gee, how does that make me feel? Let's see, I kind of feel like I just got attacked by what you said. And I'm just kind of wondering, why did I feel that way? What do you think? So try this technique of getting out of your mind and into your heart. Try this, maybe more subtly with your clients or your business partners, because it will show empathy with looking at the world, not just from your point of view in terms of sales push, but in terms of empathy and what are your needs and how can I best serve you? I've been looking for my own sort of mantras in this downtime. So Shaun, and Sandra, no couches, no binging, no waiting. I was meditating. I was doing yoga. I was deep into my heart chakra. I was running in the park. I was crafting the best possible coffees for my son and my wife. I was mastering the art of cleaning the house and tidying up my life as well as my spaces.
But, a lot of people hate you,
This was my mantra, Sandra, is I came out of this whole thing saying, how am I going to move forward with purpose in my life? And I'm looking for sort of this magical, and to my Chaitanya and Joshua, you're probably also familiar with this term of attachment. Being attached to things is the suffering. You have to just let go. In fact, I think Chaitanya or somebody said a moment ago, this is all about letting go. And if I let go and just say, who am I? In fact, Sandra, our good buddy, Mentor Max, he and I had this exercise where he asked me to put together a list of who am I. And I put together a series of poetry and I wrote a Google spreadsheet and I basically wrote who I am in about 50 lines. But when I look back at all that work, all that effort of trying to understand who I am and what is my purpose and how can I move forward, I came up with 3 guiding principles. And those are, number 1, just don't cause any harm to others or to self. Live in peace and harmony with all that is. Number 2, give more than you take. Because when you give more than you take, it's always going to come back to you. And when you give more than you take, that creates really stable societies. So when there is no deficit, there's no need, there's no emptiness, there's no I don't have, because people are always giving to me. And I don't mean giving in terms of handouts and all this political talk about, we're going to create a society where everybody's dependent. No, it's about we do no harm, we give just a little bit more than we take, and we serve others well. And I think if I can just learn to live in harmony, and I'm so discouraged with all the plastic I'm creating in my household, how do I deal with that? I seek out startups that are creating solutions to help get us off our plastic addiction. That gives me purpose. Second, I give more than I take. Sandra brings me in and gratefully hires me to do some work with her teams. I give 200% every time, and she knows it. I throw my soul, my heart, my passion into helping these teams. I go way above and beyond. So I give more than I take and serve others well. Who is it? Sharpen your saw, 7 habits of highly successful people. Shaun, you're so amazing at pulling out these quotes. I'm just blown away.
Dale Carnegie?
Dale Carnegie, classic stuff.
You
Sharpen
mean the
the saw.
or the guy that wrote it? Sorry, there's 2.
Yeah. Whoever
Okay,
that was. Sharpen your saw. Always serve others well. Because if you're serving others well, again, that's going to have that boomerang effect. And right now, we're living in a society that's in a downward spiral. And we need to be in this upward spiral. And to reverse this, I kind of look at this slowdown again as if you're in an automobile and you're driving down the motorway or the highway, and you see that there's an accident ahead, global climate change, the politics in Washington, the race issues in America, broken healthcare systems. What do you do when you're driving and you got two hands on the wheel? You've got 2 feet, one for the brake and one for the gas, and you still have faith in yourself that you got agency. You still have some control over this situation. The choice is still mine, and I can make it. What do? You put your foot on the brake and you say, hey, there's danger ahead. I'm going to slow down. Then what do? You do course correction. Maybe you pull your car over to the side. You put on the flashers and you say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to wait till this shit clears up. And then I'm going to forge my path forward. Well, that's where I was probably June of 2020. I have a roof terrace. My God, I live in the most boss place here in Prague. I really have hit the jackpot in life. I've got a beautiful family. I've got a beautiful, not a huge flat. Flats in Europe are smaller than Europe, just FYI. But I've got this roof terrace, and I'm on the roof terrace, and I'm out there meditating, wearing a hoodie and sweatpants because it's cold. And the trams aren't running. The only thing that's moving on the street are vehicles moving food to the grocery stores because everybody's locked down. It's as quiet as I've ever seen the world. I was looking around at the city of Prague from my roof terrace, and I'm thinking, this is what I remember 20 years ago when I first moved to Europe. It looked like this. But now Europe looks like every other American city because everybody's running and hustling. And it was like, wow, I don't want to go back to those old norms. I want to stay as deeply connected with my heart chakra as I can. I want to get my body as flexible as possible because I'm going to need to have more flexibility moving forward. I'm going to have more mental energy and focus than I've ever had before. So I'm going to have to pull my agency card and reel back in my attention span, which I'm giving away essentially for free. If it's for free, you're the product. Hello, right? If you're binging on Netflix, if you're having trouble pulling your eyes off of Instagram, you are the product, my friend, and you're taking your life, which is the one gift you have. The way we spend it is through our attention span. The way we direct it is through our intentions. And I'm not preaching or proselytizing to anybody. I'm just telling you, I'm a lost soul just like you. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm on the roof terrace and I'm looking around this beautiful city saying, my God, how did I get here? Wow. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you, Grandma and Grandpa. Thank you, great-grandparents, and all those who helped get me to where I am. The miracle that I am at this moment on this roof terrace, looking at this beautiful city, deeply connected to my heart, feeling gratitude for all the people that are in my life and that are out there. You know, I'm not seeing them because I'm only seeing my family. And I'm thinking, how do I move forward? I got to get my body ready. I got to get my mind ready, and I got to get my spirit solid. So my mantra then moving forward is that I'm going to do no harm. I'm going to give more than I take, and I'm going to serve others well. And every morning I'm going to wake up. I'm going to say, this is my purpose today, whether it's serving my cat, my beautiful 11-year-old son, Harry, or my wife, or the apartment, which is our nest egg for the future, or my business partners like Sandra and others, or my brothers and sisters, or my family. Even the neighbors in my building, I didn't even know them. I've lived in this building 12 years. I didn't even know anybody in the building. And now I can knock on somebody's door on a Friday night and say, hey, would you like to have a glass of wine? I'm even running for the homeowners board in my building. They don't even speak English over here. But I told them, I feel like running this building. I live in a 1920s building in the 6th district in Prague. And I'm looking at this place and I'm thinking, this place is amazing, but nobody cares for it. I'm going to care for it. If the garbage on the street is on the street, I embarrass my son and I pick it up and I put it in the bin. I don't do that because I'm high and mighty. I do that because I still have agency. I still have control. I have the ability to, I'm a cleaner, Mr. Green, Mr. Clean. I clean up the garbage in front of my house. I clean up the garbage when I run in the park on Saturday mornings. I do it at 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody is out there. I'm not asking for accolades from anyone. It's just part of the way of giving more than I take. And
That's
I'm
like,
53 years old. I've littered a lot in life. I got a lot of karma to eat through before I let it all go and go on to the next game.
well, essentially, I feel like, and we'll end it unless we have other questions coming from the audience, but I feel like the accolades you seek, especially the meaningful, purposeful accolades, are to you. You do it because it gives you something, and you don't need others to quantify it. I've done a lot of stuff, and I've never done it for the applause of the crowd. I've always done it because I wanted to do it. And people say, "Oh, that's so impressive," and I say, "It's not. I don't do it to impress people. I do it because I have a goal. I wanted to reach that goal. The striving and suffering for that goal is worth it to me, so I'm going to go after it." And a lot of people just want to have a checklist of doing a bazillion things, and none of them are meaningful. I feel they're just there to impress others and get some social currency and some clout. And I feel like the things that get clout are not the things that you're going to remember down the line.
Shaun, what I really appreciate about you, and we just met, Sandra just introduced us for this call, is again, the newsletter. And I'm plugging it not because I want to plug your newsletter.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wallace Green.
But I'm plugging it because that's giving all that time and all that effort. And more importantly, it's your truth, and you're sharing your truth with us. And to be honest, mate, I struggle with my truth. It doesn't flow. And I'm kind of wondering, what is it that I can do, or what is it I'm holding on to that's bottling me up, and how can I help release that flow? Actually, I kind of feel like flow when I'm with all these people, because I see all these wonderful comments and I'm really inspired by everybody that's on this call. So sign up for the newsletter so you can sample Shaun's flow and know that when you're reading it, this is part of his contribution to help pulling us along and helping us.
He gets it. Someone gets it.
Make the way. I get it, dude. And you know what? I love the branding, the YouTopian Journey. It's brilliant.
Well, thank you. What do I say to that? If we don't have any other questions, if there's nothing else you want to address, I mean, I can't end on a higher note than that. I'm done. Good night.
But seriously, branding and packaging, by the way, for all you entrepreneurs out there, the name of your company is essential, because it's the moniker and it's the first reference to context that gives people a clue about what you do and why you do it and who you are. And when I see that Shaun Gold writes a newsletter, it's called Utopian, I'm looking at it, I'm like, Utopian. I totally get it. It's super intuitive. The utopia is right here. It's inside me. It's inside you, inside all of us. And there's an even greater utopia, which is the utopia where we converge and merge into the one, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's in our families, whether it's in our neighborhoods, communities, societies, populations in general. This is what I see as purpose. Purpose is this sort of convergence of our goals and our intentions and our actions. Well, what's the Venn diagram where those three things overlap? It's the perfect life. It's grace. It's abundance. It's everything you need to feel whole and feel safe and feel needed and feel cared for and loved. Maybe you don't feel all those things because your mom and dad treated you in a certain way, or somebody bullied you on the playground. It's time to get over that and say, I forgive all those who did that to me, and backfill that through your own purpose and your own actions. Anyway, I'm just feeling super inspired by all this. And again, Sandra and Shaun, just absolutely brilliant to be here. And Sydney, thank you for your comments. And Gretchen, you as well. And Will, I mean, Joshua.
We'll just say everybody. We'll have a blanket. Yeah. Thank you.
For shizzle, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. And
appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for joining us today. And yeah, on next Tuesday, I guess, Shaun, right? We're having this next episode, which is going to be about networking. Networking in digital age, networking as some sort of a tools, and at the same time, networking as something that all the founders basically need to learn. How to do it, why to do it, and how not to, lose yourself in this like numerous amounts of connections that you have, how to talk to people, why to talk to people, and at the end of the day, how to help people, how to express who you are to them at the same time. Right, Shaun?
100%. Trust me, as a super networker, natural networker, if I have any one talent in this entire world, it's being a networker. And I'm not talking computers. So it'll definitely be something that I think it's gonna be very, very valuable. I'm not gonna say add value, because as we know, I think that's a stupid phrase, but it's very valuable. And again, it's not about us, it's about you. So come with your questions, bring your friends, let us help you, become better founders, become more in your personal and professional lives. And it's a cool thing. Come share your knowledge, ask your questions, share your LinkedIn's, and come and leave more than what you entered in.
Amazing. Yeah, and
Bingo.
don't forget to follow us on Eventbrite, because this is where you get all the information about the next events. Thank you.
Thank you,
Fantastic.
guys.
Is that it? We saying goodbye?
That's it. This is it.
We're saying goodbye.
All right. Peace, love, and joy, everybody. Take care.
Rock on. Thank you.
Ciao. Great to meet you, Shaun. Bye, Sandra.
Pleasure. Thank
See you
you.
both
Bye.
soon.